Hello and welcome. I am Samuel Reiman and this is a British American's Guide to This Weekend in Motorsports, episode number 32. Honestly, there won't be an episode next week because of Thanksgiving, but let's talk about some motor racing now, and we've got a lot of it to talk about because most of the seasons are pretty much coming to an end if they haven't already. Of course, the big story this weekend is going to be NASCAR. That Homestead Miami Speedway, 4 drivers left fighting for the championship. Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. And honestly, they're all feel-good stories if it does happen. Jimmy Johnson will be a 7th championship. Kyle Busch, well, love him or hate him, he's a heck of a driver, so it'd be good to, you know, in a way I think it would feel right for him to have a 2nd championship to his name. Carl Edwards, I've mentioned last time, great personality for the sport. He's got a lot of fans. Joey Logano as well, he's a real around nice guy, not the most popular driver out there though, but you know, if he wins a championship, good for him. Of course, the driver who is not going to be there, or one of the drivers who's not going to be fighting for the championship, is Matt Kenseth, who got spun out of a lead on the penultimate restart of the last race at Phoenix when Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman had a little bit of argy-bargy going into turn 1. It looked like Kenseth would be clear. His spotter told him he was clear. Kenseth came all the way down. He wasn't clear and ended up tipping off the front of Alex Bowman. I'm not going to go too deep into that because Kenseth's spotter kind of took the blame for it. Sucks for Kenseth. He already has a championship to his name though. He's still a good driver with a good team. We'll see if he can get another one. I'm not so optimistic about that. Obviously though, it's not going to happen this year. Now of course, Formula 1. Who's going to be the champion? We won't find out until another 2 weeks. But let's speculate about it now because, as I already mentioned, Thanksgiving next week, I won't be able to speculate it then. It's either going to be Lewis Hamilton or Nico Rosberg. Nico Rosberg goes in with a 12-point lead, and that means as long as he gets on the podium in Abu Dhabi, he will be champion. And if he wins, he's champion no matter what happens to Hamilton. So things look to be in Rosberg's favour, but let's not forget also 2 years ago when Hamilton and Rosberg were fighting for the championship in Abu Dhabi, Hamilton won and Rosberg's car broke down and finished towards the tail end of the top 10 there. So Hamilton has won the last 2 championships. Let's also talk about the Brazilian Grand Prix, because it was a great one, and I've mentioned that on my Facebook once or twice, I think. When it rains at the Interlagos circuit in Brazil, you need to take attention because those are some, historically, of the most fantastic Formula 1 races you will see. Now, some people complained that as great as it was seeing Max Verstappen save and have a bad strategy call and still rally all the way through the field to go from 14th to 3rd, and also, you know, seeing the drivers have to fight for control on the slick circuit because of the rainy conditions and these powerful cars, dangerous cars. I mean, there were several scary incidents during the race, and just you know, being as Joe Peak, who's, you know, co-hosted a few of his shows with me, he explained it quite well the other day. He said it was like they were gladiators again. But of course, let's get back to the problem. The race took 3 hours to complete because of multiple stoppages because the stewards deemed the track was too wet. Right or wrong, at some times during the race, it was too wet. I mean, when the car spins out on the way to the grid, you've got a problem. That's what happened to Romain Grosjean in the Haas F1 car. He was meant to start 7th, didn't even make it to the grid because he spun on the wet circuit. Is it as simple as Pirelli need to make wet weather tyres? And I hope the answer is yes. Because if it does, if they can do that, hopefully we'll see more racing in the wet again. Because it, you know, with the ever dwindling attention span of a motor racing audience, Formula 1 races expected to go for 90 minutes, you know, it's not so great when the whole duration was 3 hours. Honestly, I wasn't entertained throughout most of the thing. I mean, obviously the off-track action wasn't, you know, no one likes to see cars parked on pit road. And then, of course, also I'm, you know, pretty big F1 fan, so maybe there were lots of people out there who, even though there was strategy going on and all that during the downtime of a race, they would like to see more racing on track. More racing on track is always good. Hopefully, it's a simple solution like bare wet tyres. We'll have to find out, see what Pirelli's response to that will be. Alright, those weren't the only two series racing though. We also had NHRA were finishing up their championship last weekend. Antrim Brown won the Top Fuel Championship a few weeks ago. Ron Capps finally won the Funny Car Championship. I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. He actually wrapped up in qualifying. And then in Pro Stock, Jason Lyon took the title. And then in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Jerry Savoy took the title. I've got to admit, I haven't followed the sport long enough to know all of these drivers by person, but, you know, from what I've seen, their drive interviews and what other people have said, they're all great people, they're all great drivers, so well deserved to all of them. And I did an article that I shared onto my Facebook page talking about the top 10 moments, I think, from the 2016 NHRA season. I've got to admit, I have become a bit of a fan after my first season, watching all of drag racing, getting to know the people and also how the system works. And so go check it out, see some of our highlights from the 2016 NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series. And for all of you saying, hey, he probably just lists the top 10 wrecks, that is not true. Only about 5 of them are. Maybe 6. Also, MotoGP wrapped up their season last weekend. Jorge Lorenzo won his last race on the Yamaha. He is now off to Ducati. He absolutely dominated that race while there was a bit of a podium scrap going on behind. Marc Marquez, of course, has been champion for a little while. What's going to happen in 2017? I don't know, hard to say. I'm not going to go and speculate. They're already testing. I think you're going to see, let's not forget, at the start of the season, it looked like the Yamaha would be the best bike. If that's the case again, I think you're going to want to watch Maverick Vinales a little bit more than Rossi, because let's face it, Rossi is getting a bit older now, but, you know, every year we say that and he still goes on and puts on some good performances, so we'll see what he can do. And of course, the other things to watch next season will be Lorenzo on the Ducati and of course Marc Marquez on the Honda. Formula E was also in action last weekend. Sebastian Buemi has now won the opening 2 rounds of the 2016 to 2017 season. Of course, Lucas Di Grassi is also still doing good. And that's one of the good things I think Formula E has going for it right now, is they've got 2 drivers who are fairly well known because they both had experience in Formula 1, Lucas Di Grassi and Sebastian Buemi, in 2 very colourful cars, but not the same, you know, colour. Sebastian Buemi races that beautiful blue and yellow Renault Edams car, and Luca Di Grassi is in the, I don't know, rainbow-coloured, multicoloured green, yellow and red Abt Schaeffler Audi sport car. And so, you know, it's good to see 2 names that are fairly well known driving 2 notable different looking cars out there fighting for the championship season after season. We'll have to wait, unfortunately though, a few months before we see the next episode of that. The only other race going on this weekend besides NASCAR is the WEC, the World Endurance Championship finale. That's a sports car series that also does the 24-hour of Le Mans. They are going to be doing their 6 hours of Bahrain. The significant thing about that, the championships have already been wrapped up by Porsche. That's in the LMP1 class, the main class, the ones that are running at the front of the field. But, you know, I'm sure there's going to be other championships throughout the field that you'll learn about if you get a chance to see the broadcast. But it's going to be Audi's last race in the FIA World Endurance Championship, and even not being the biggest sports car fan in the world, myself and I'm sure other sports car enthusiasts, people who have watched Le Mans 24 will know Audi has done a lot for sports car racing. It's made a lot of highlights. It will be sad to see them go, but they say they'll be in Formula E before too long, and that'll be very exciting to see indeed. So we do still have lots of racing coming up in the upcoming weeks. Be sure to check it out, because honestly, after that, it's going to be a very quiet December. And as I say, these episodes may be a bit sporadic throughout the rest of the year, but we hope you enjoyed the season. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you again on another Thursday. Enjoy the races.